Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping back by Jesse's Occupational Awareness channel. Appreciate y'all being here. Hope you enjoyed the content today. I'm pointing over here at my window. I know you can't see it. Got the blinds open. Let me just say, East Coast, summertime, it is the dog days of summer. I'm native to Texas, down there on the Gulf, southeast area. I thought I was used to heat and humidity. Man, let me tell you, this is some kind of heat and humidity. Stay safe if you're working outside. Stay hydrated. Man, I'm ready for this to blow on by. Now, what does that have to do with anything that we're going to talk about today? Well, today we're going to talk about inmate laundry, offender laundry, officer laundry, all kind of the same thing. We're not going to talk about the laundry that the offenders wore. We're going to talk about ours. As I talked about in one of my early videos about being in the academy, we were sized and issued our uniforms within the first week. We got 4 shirts, 4 trousers. You had your choice of undershirt. It could be black, blue. For the life of me, I don't remember the third. I know it couldn't be charcoal gray. Back then, I wore Under Armour shirts, and charcoal gray was one of the colors. It looks black from a distance. I remember getting called out for it. So that's not the proper color to wear. It's probably different now, I'm not sure. In addition to the shirts and trousers, we were also issued a black leather belt, basket weave style. If you're not familiar with that, just Google search leather belt basket weave. It looks pretty sharp. It's extremely popular with Southern style clothing. I can't speak for northern areas. I haven't lived around there. I'm sure it's popular everywhere. And then the boots. Boots were whatever we wanted to wear. It couldn't be steel or composite toe. Some even wore a black leather work shoes. Not in the academy, but at the unit they would wear that. They were lighter, they were quicker, they weren't as heavy on your feet. Socks, black socks. Never white. You would typically get turned away in pat down if you were wearing white socks. So, when we were in the academy, we were required to keep ourselves looking sharp all the time. We needed an iron, an ironing board. Some of those were in the barracks. Others had to go out and buy, and then we borrowed from each other, and a little bit of starch. One of the main commercial starch products, there's Faultless, there's lemon scented, the blue letter on the can, that's just plain. There's another kind, I think it's called Magic Sizing. It's not starch, so to speak. It's something. I don't know what. And then there's another brand. These 3 that I've talked about, they're in spray aerosol cans. There's another one that's in a blue bottle. I can't remember the name of it. Wow. Words, pal. Eventually I'm going to learn to edit these videos. For now, raw footage. A blue bottle with the liquid starch in it. You pour this into a spray bottle and then you dilute it down with water, and you can spray the clothing down with this. Let it dry. If you don't, it sticks to the iron. Let it dry and then you iron it out and it looks sharp. Alright, we had the creases down the sleeves. The shirt had military creases sewn into it. Military creases are creases that run vertically, up and down, through the pockets, 2 in the front, on the back, 1, 2, and 3 down the back. They were sewn in, so the shirt gets folded over and it has a stitch running down it, so you didn't have to worry about ironing it in. Ironing in 5 military creases takes quite a while. I've done it many times. It never gets any easier. So, that was the uniforms that we got issued. And in the academy, like I was saying, we had to look sharp every day, all the time. You could actually be dismissed for the day until you had your uniform squared away, and then you could report back to class. If you didn't do it, you could be fired. It'd be the same thing as being released from any other kind of job and not coming back to it. No show. Once we got to the unit, very early on in the OJT process, probably around the first day, yes, the first day, we were taken over to the laundry room called Unit Laundry, and the workers there were laundry service managers. In the chow hall, it's food service managers. So the laundry service managers managed the offenders that ran all the machines and took care of the clothing. They didn't actually iron the clothes themselves, they supervised the inmate workers that did that. They had big presses that would press the uniforms out flat. They also had individual ironing boards with irons. It was a pretty major deal. In the admin building where human resources was, the warden's office, classification, count room, field training officer's office, Officer Lewis, my FTO. There was also the window where the clothes would get dropped off and processed further from there. Part of my routine, once I got myself set up with Unit Laundry, you take however many you wanted to, 1, 2, 3, you needed at least one to wear, and we only had 4 of them. So, it wasn't like we could go get 2, 3, 4 more shirts, turn that into Unit Laundry, and get them taken care of from there. It would be like the door behind me, the top portion swung open, the bottom portion would still be closed, and there was a countertop. Set your clothes up on there. One of the offender workers would come over. A lot of times they would already have the laundry tickets sitting out on the counter, and I always had a pin up in my shirt. You needed a pin all the time on the job there. You take that and start filling out your information on the laundry ticket. Name, what shift you were assigned to, what you were turning in, shirt, times, however many you put on there, to trouser, size, however many you were turning in. There wasn't anything for the belt, the boots, nothing like that. You could have, I don't know if this is still a thing, but you could have your own civilian clothes laundered and pressed there as well. Blue jeans, could have them starched, pressed with creases, dress shirts. A lot of people would bring their own clothes in and have that done. I never did that. I never had the offenders, excuse me, I never had the offenders do my own clothes, just the uniforms. So I'd get there extra early in the morning, especially on laundry day, drop off the shirts. I'd bring them in on a plastic hanger, not metal, and it couldn't be broken. Bring them in on a plastic hanger. They would band them together. The ticket, I think it got folded up and put in the pocket. Honestly, don't remember that much detail. They would be ready by the end of the shift. So go work a 12-hour shift, cool, get done, come back, go to laundry, don't give it to them, show the worker your state issue ID. They go to where the shifts were that they were on, find your shirts, find your pants, bring them over to you, check, make sure that they're yours. There you go. Free service, didn't have to pay for it, always look sharp. There wasn't so much a policy that stated there was anything wrong with washing your uniform at home, drying it, putting it on and going to work like that. But those officers would get called out in turnout. They'd get called out, they'd get mentioned to. Now, it's not going to make or break your day if you're in a sharp-looking uniform or not. However, people do notice it, and some turn a negative eye toward, we call them nasty, toward the nasty-looking officer, the frumpy-looking officer. It kind of put forth a front that maybe you don't care enough to take a little bit of time to use a free service and get the uniforms taken care of. A lot of offenders that are in there, some had some military service. A lot of them, they like to look sharp in the uniform that they get issued. Things like that are a thing. So that offender, while they're never fully going to put forth the respect to you, in my dealings with, but they might look down on you even more if they see the frumpy looking uniform there. So you always want to look as sharp and as presentable as you could. At the end of a 12-hour shift, it's a different story. I would be covered in sweat, just stinking nasty. I wore that stab vest over my shirt, so the shirt would look ruined right after putting the vest on. But you still wanted to put forth the effort. Now, those are a lot of the pros. There were some cons. All right. I talked about how hot it is, okay? One of the downfalls to starching your clothes, it makes them stiff. It makes them heavier. The material doesn't breathe quite as well. On that ticket, there was a spot to put on there if you wanted light, medium, heavy, or no starch. I found out very early on, especially in the summertime, no matter what you put on that ticket, no starch, you could even hand write it on the ticket, don't starch my uniforms. When you got the shirt back, they were going to be the most crispiest, the most starched that they could be. It was like they took the undiluted solution of starch, soaked the uniforms in them, ironed them out. Them damn shirts, they'd be as stiff as cardboard. You take the shirt, hang it down, flip it up, and it wouldn't even flop down like a piece of clothes is supposed to. It would literally be as stiff as if you had picked up a piece of cardboard from somewhere and you're waving it on around and it's not bending or flopping. That's exactly what the shirts and what the trousers would feel like. You go to put your hand through the sleeve of the shirt and you'd feel and hear the starch breaking loose as you got through it. The buttonholes would be so closed together with starch you almost couldn't button the buttons through it. The trousers, as you go to pull your legs through the pants, you could hear as your foot broke through the starch. It would just make that crackling noise as it's breaking it loose. Well, why would they do that? In the summertime, it was just to make the officer miserable. Guaranteed, 100%. They knew the more starch that they could put in those uniforms, the less they would breathe, the heavier they would get. They're uncomfortable. Some officers, their skin would break out from it from having reactions to all this starch. Everybody's different. Some people can't use certain brands of laundry soap, some fabric softeners. I personally can't use Old Spice products. Doesn't agree with me. So they would have reactions to it. So they would have a medical reason not to use the offender laundry. When they would do this, the clothes would be so miserably uncomfortable. When you go to sit down, you could feel just the stiffness in the material. And when you started to get hot, the clothing just didn't breathe. It would almost be like you're wearing one of those workout sauna suits. They would be so bad. This would go on for a decent amount of time. I would always put no starch. They'd come back just as starched. Now, what can you do? Hand them back the clothes and say, hey, redo these? Now you're liable to end up without enough uniforms that you're supposed to have. Typically, there weren't laundry service managers working in the front window. There was usually 2 or 3 inmates. Fill out your slip, give it to them, give them the clothes, they'd hang them up. Eventually, at some point, they'd send it on to the back. This would go on probably about 4 or 5 times, and I would complain to the worker. Now, this guy, he wasn't the one doing the ironing. He was just the one that I had to talk to. And I remember he had this real deep, raspy voice. I don't remember what his name is. Oh, yeah, Mr. Carter. I'll tell him back there to stop doing that. I know how hot it is in this unit. Years and years of smoking unfiltered cigarettes and whatever else had just destroyed the vocal cords. Never did anything. So by the 4th or 5th time, I'm getting back my uniforms that are completely full of starch. I'd had enough of it. I took my clothes, and instead of going to turnout, I knew I was probably going to regret this. I made my way back to inmate laundry where they were all working, and they're all turning and looking at me as I walk them through, because usually only the laundry service managers or some of the new boots, the new OJTs, would go back in there. And I went back to where the 2 of them were working, and I said, hey, Boss, let me holler at you for a second here. This is like the fourth or fifth time I've requested for these uniforms to not be starched. And look at this. This is the heaviest, most ridiculous amount of starch you could. Don't y'all have some kind of unit budget here? Isn't this getting expensive? And the lady, I'll always remember it, she rolled her eyes and looked away. And instantly in my mind, I'm going, oh, I'm inconveniencing her. The guy that was working in there, hey, Boss Carter, look, you're just going to have to deal with it. You know, you get what you get. We supervise these guys as best we can. If they put some starch in the uniform, that's just how it is. And I remember looking at the guy and kind of shaking my head going, got it. You don't give a shit what's going on, do you? I remember muttering that under my breath. She slaps her hands down on the desk, stands up, and just starts screaming. You need to get the... You don't even work back here. Who are you to come back here? All right, somebody's having a bad day. I left. Didn't do any good. I was late to turnout and got talked to by the lieutenant and the sergeant. Tried to plead my case, tried to explain the situation. They said, so you're going to put this facility at risk because your clothes have too much starch in them. Roger that, LT. Got it. I understand. Never talked to another laundry service manager again. Never went back and tried to plead my case. Just turn them in, give them back to you. It seemed like after a little while there would be a little less starch, not as much, but still a ton of it. And it would happen periodically, then it would kind of fluctuate depending on who was what. So I don't know if I made the situation better or if I made it worse. It seems like everyone else had just learned to deal with it. So, free laundry. It was available. It looked good. It starched the hell out of it. Couldn't breathe. And you'd sweat so bad from those uniforms. But we looked good, and that was what it was all about. Folks, I really hope y'all have enjoyed this content. Thanks for checking everything out. Again, out here in this heat, if you're working outside, stay safe, stay hydrated, pound water, take care of yourselves. Look forward to seeing everyone in the next video.